and welcome to our special program brought to you by USV, Living with COVID. I'm Gargi Rawat. This week, we're focusing on women's health, managing women health-related concerns like PCOS, pregnancy, menopause, etc. in these COVID times has been a very big challenge. Women are afraid to visit their gynecologists and obstetricians because of the fear of infection and the challenges of traveling to the clinic. To talk more about these issues, joining us on the show today, we have Dr. Parag Beniwale, who is a senior gynecologist and heads the gynecology practice at the Beniwale Clinic in Pune, and Dr. Subhash Malia, a senior and respected gynecologist from Cochin. Thank you both for joining us this morning. And I'd like to start the show by asking you, Dr. Beniwale, in these challenging times of COVID, what advice would you like to give to women who are anxious about their upcoming deliveries and general health tips to keep themselves and their babies safe during COVID?
Yeah, thank you, Gargi. COVID is a challenge which all of us are facing. This is a new disease, so the world doesn't know anything about it, and we are still learning every day. Now, the care has to start from home. We ask our women not to get out of the house unless it is an emergency. Hygiene is an extremely important aspect. So they have to follow hand hygiene, frequent hand washing, use of hand rubs, covering face, wearing a mask is extremely important. And of course, social distancing is very, very important. Now, whenever women come to the clinic, of course, we try and ask them not to come unless there's an emergency. So teleconsultation is something which is the in thing now. So routine health checkups are generally avoided. We are asking them to come down only for specific checkups, and then we try and combine them with the ultrasound, with the blood test, etc. And we ask patients to visit alone or with maximum one relative, and of course children and elderly relatives are not encouraged. Now, as far as deliveries are concerned, these women do require a lot of counseling because there's a lot of anxiety in their mind. And closer to the due dates, again, we reiterate the fact that they have to be at home. They should not mingle with people because we don't want them to contract infection from any of the sources. We are recommending COVID tests. Of course, it is not the universal truth, but in Pune, being one of the most contributors to COVID in our country, we are recommending COVID testing closer to the due date. Now, if the woman is tested positive, it is worthwhile referring the patient or delivering her in a designated COVID hospitals. And if she is negative, of course, she can be delivered at any hospitals. Due precautions are taken by everybody. So we are following all the standard precautions which are recommended by the GOI, by the ICMR and worldwide. Even our federation has given a lot of recommendations as far as pregnancy and childbirth is concerned. So the general precautions like hygiene, allowing one or two relatives at hospital are important things which the patients should understand and they should strictly follow. And we as healthcare providers are taking all due precaution.
Right, I can imagine the healthcare precautions for the woman and the baby, and also for the healthcare providers, if she is indeed COVID positive or any of those who are accompanying her. Dr. Malia, now in case a doctor spoke about, telemedicine and how they're encouraged not to come for every checkup to the clinic, but in case they do have to go to the clinics and, travel, what sort of precautions would you advise?
Hey, good morning, Gargi. Greetings from Calicut. Right. As Dr. Parag has said, it's inevitable to go to the hospital. I mean, then of course you have to take care that you do not go to areas which have been identified as to have clusters of infection. Now, you don't want to contract infection from these areas. Now, again, if you have to travel as much as possible, if possible, you try to take your own vehicle. Use of a private vehicle is possible, but of course, in areas which are not very, not much of a good of a transport. In case if public transport is inevitable, then in those cases you try to avoid contact with persons, avoid crowding with the thing, and do try to avoid touching any surfaces. Now, this is very important when you travel in a public transport. Again, what you have to understand is traveling recommendations are actually changing very often. So you will have to modify the visitation policies based on your local and community spread, based on the local government and the government regulations and protocols. And again, infection control has to be taken care of. Now, in both the hospital settings, in inpatient and outpatient settings, it is recommended that a number of visitors, as Dr. Parag has suggested, you reduce it. You try to, just the patient and one. Because in South, the culture is that the whole of the family comes down with the patient. Now you try to avoid this, and that's what we've been telling the patients to. You just come with one relative, which is an even inevitable relative, or else you don't just crowd and come down. Again, masks, as Dr. Parag had suggested, wearing of a mask is inevitable. I think the government has been very, very categorical. The media has also been trying its level best to tell people and make them understand the importance of wearing a mask. Of course, a specialized mask is basically only for the consultants, the healthcare individuals. But again, for the common public, even a simple mask, I think a simple mask would do wonders. I think unfortunately some of them do not still follow after 6 months of understanding this problem. Again, through your medium, what I would like to suggest is we have to be compassionate and understand each situation as it is, and the healthcare, and understand that the healthcare professionals are doing their best. So a little bit of empathy for the healthcare professionals is very, very welcome.
No, absolutely. I agree, because, we're seeing the number of our doctors falling sick, and we absolutely can't afford that. So, yes, of course, everybody has to be careful, not just for themselves, for their families, but also for our healthcare professionals. Now, Dr. Biniwale, there's a lot of talk about building up your immunity, in the midst of this pandemic and to ward off COVID. What steps can an expectant mother take to build up her and her baby's immunity, and what should she not do? Because there's, so much advice, and you were just talking, Dr. Malia, about family members and all that, and of course there's a lot of advice also coming in. So tell us about what she can do to build up her immunity.
Right, Gargi, luckily our Indian diet is a square meal where we have rotis, we have sabzi, we have salad, we have dal. So in general, Indian diet is quite nutritional, and it covers all the aspects of a meal. Now, there are certain recommendations, especially in COVID times. For example, vitamin C. Now, all citrus fruits will give vitamin C, and it will protect cells from oxidative stress. So it will also help reducing the inflammation. Iron, again, is a rich, which is an extremely important ingredient of our food. Green vegetables, tofu, beans, etc., and they would help in building non-specific immunity. So a lot of emphasis has to be given on diet. This is number one. Second thing is about the mental well-being, because stress is something which really bothers a lot of women, and that is how they are facing a lot of challenges. So taking care of their mental health is also important. Coming to the supplements in pregnancy, we are supplementing our women with iron, calcium, and even vitamins. As far as COVID-19 is concerned, vitamin D is found to be associated with reduced rates of infections, and it improves the outcome. So we are recommending supplements of vitamin D, and usually the dose is about 60,000 units every week for 4 weeks, and then we can continue it every month. Vitamin C usually shortens the course of the disease, and it reduces severity of symptoms. So 500 milligrams of vitamin C every day plays an important role as far as COVID is concerned. Other supplements like vitamin E, zinc, selenium, there are pluses and minuses, but I personally believe that there's no harm in giving it. There are a lot of trials going on world over evaluating nutrients and how they will be useful. Government of India's Ministry of Ayush has also recommended a kada which has a lot of natural ingredients, and I think it is also worth trying because it is supposed to build immunity.
All right, and now Dr. Malia, to speak about an issue that does worry a lot of expectant mothers, it's miscarriage. What advice would you give to reduce the risk of miscarriage, and does contracting COVID in your experience, have you seen, does it increase the risk?
What we have understood with very little knowledge that we have for the last 6 months about COVID,
sure.
I think COVID has not been supposed to, there has not been increased incidence of miscarriages due to COVID. Now, I think that's a common myth which we have to, despite that, there's nothing of that sort happening. Now, other than the COVID per se, now regarding to the larger issue of miscarriages, now what we can do is, systemic maternal endocrine disorders, like the mother is having a diabetic, or the lady is having a thyroid disease. Now, which are modifiable things which we can correct, and if we are able to get this corrected, I think the chance of miscarriage are very less. Now, a lady who has a very high hemoglobin A1C, that's HbA1c, which gives us a rough idea of the content in the last 3 months, the diabetic control in the last 3 months. Now, that is supposed to be high, then your chance of miscarriages are very high. So a very good glycemic control or diabetic control will go a long way in avoiding your future miscarriages. The same is with the thyroid also. It is a very, very common disorder in more so in India. We tend to underdiagnose thyroid disorders. Now, thyroid disorders, if you're able to make it out early, or you're able to detect it early, on these cases, in recurrent miscarriages, now it goes a long way in giving a healthy pregnancy. One more thing which which is coming up in a big way, but then again, not much of knowledge is being dissipated on this, is the polycystic ovarian disease. Now, polycystic ovarian disease per se is also having a very big link with an increased risk of miscarriages. We tend to miss this point very often. Now, other than this, okay, heavy alcohol consumption, caffeine, and again cigarette smoking. Now, all these are supposed to have a higher risk for a miscarriage. In certain individuals who have had a previous history of miscarriage, more so in the second trimester, what we say is in maybe about 16 weeks to 20 weeks now. So this is something which can be avoided. Once they have had a previous loss, and you ask them to get an ultrasound, and you find that the cervical length is less than about 2.5 centimeters. This is more technical. It's less than about 2.5 centimeters. Now, these patients would be advised to undergo a cervical cerclage, which is found to be useful in avoiding the future miscarriages. And now to the question per se about the COVID, and there has not been much of an increase due to COVID in the rate of miscarriages. On the contrary, on a lighter note, we have seen more and more people become pregnant. Thanks to the people are forced to stay at home.
Right, a lot of lockdown babies happening. Well, Dr. Beniwale, is there something you'd like to add about, regarding this fear of miscarriage, the risks, and what in your mind are the common causes that lead to miscarriage?
Gargi, I totally agree with what Dr. Subhash has said. We have had patients who were trying for months together and have suddenly managed to conceive. Probably the work stress is a little less. And on the contrary, we've had patients who've conceived and they came to have an abortion because they were not very sure about their job security. So they were worried whether they will continue with their job or not, and then they ask for an abortion. Coming to the recurrent miscarriages, and before I talk about recurrent miscarriages, just this morning I read a report from the US where they have not commented on miscarriages due to COVID, but they have said that risk of preterm birth is almost 3 times higher than usual as compared in women who've suffered from COVID. So this is something which we have to keep a note of, because here in Pune we are getting patients during pregnancy contracting COVID. Of course, luckily, touch wood, our patients have sailed through COVID so far, but then there may not be some who may face more serious effects. Coming to the miscarriages, typically when a woman conceives for the first time, there's possibility of a 10% chance of miscarriage. Now, unfortunately, when we talk about causes of miscarriage, in about 50% women, we are not able to pinpoint any other cause. So we really don't know what's happening, and even if you do a lot of tests, we may not get some conclusive evidence from it. The second factor is something called anatomical problems, where there are problems because of abnormal shape of the uterus, and where the capacity of the uterus is not proper, and these women do land up in miscarriages sometimes. Dr. Subhash did mention about endocrine factors. We have to remember that thyroid dysfunction and diabetes are two which are responsible for miscarriages to a large extent, and they have to be very well controlled before we do anything. In about 5% women, genetic factors do play a role. This is an area which is upcoming and we still do not know much about it, but yes, there are certain genetic situations where miscarriages do take place. In about 10% women, the causes could be immunological. When I say immunological, it means that some kind of antibody is produced against the baby, which alters the blood flow going to the baby and results into a miscarriage. And of course, there are certain infections which are responsible for miscarriages, especially repeated miscarriages. But unfortunately, as of now, we do not have much evidence about COVID resulting into an abortion.
Right, and I just like, before we go into break, I'd like to ask both of you, what advice, first Dr. Biniwale, what advice are you giving couples who may be planning a pregnancy during this time? It must be differing depending on age, etc. What are the factors, and so what advice do you give?
The thing is, here we have to take into account all other factors. For example, age of the couple. Secondly, were they facing problems of infertility or not? Because if they were facing problems of infertility, they can continue planning their pregnancy. But yes, if the couple is not in a hurry, if it is a young couple, perfectly healthy, and if they are planning at some point of time, maybe they can wait for a while, maybe a 6 or 8 months more, and then think of planning a baby.
All right, Dr. Malia, do you have many couples coming and asking this question that if should we plan it during this time in the midst of the pandemic?
No, I would definitely suggest yes to the couples, because I think this has been for some of them it's been God-given time where you can spend time with each other. Unfortunately, most of the working couples, the problem is that a major cause of infertility, leave alone a miscarriage, and infertility is that they don't have time for each other. Unfortunately, because of the work ethics and the work shifts and all. So I think this has been a good time for them. I think they should utilize this time and try for conceiving for pregnancy is what my personal suggestion is.
All right. Well, thank you both for talking about that. We'll slip into a short break and come back with more concerns that women have during this time. Stay with us.
Knowledge Partner, USV, your reliable healthcare partner.
Welcome back to our special show, and we're discussing women's health in the midst of this pandemic and what sort of steps they should take to ensure that they remain healthy, especially if they're pregnant. Well, let's go across now to Dr. Biniwale. Doctor, I'd like you to talk about what precautions do you take in making physical examinations of patients safe during COVID, and once again on the issue of coming again and again to the doctor for checkups when you're pregnant.
Right. Gargi, I did mention that the patient should come down to the clinic or hospital only if she is having problems. So as I would reiterate the fact that routine checkups are something which can be put on hold. Right. So that is one. Secondly, whenever the patient comes in the clinic, we find out whether she has downloaded the app, which is again important, the Arogya Setu app. Then a temperature is taken on when a woman enters the clinic. Of course, sanitizers are given. We ensure that the patient is using a mask. So all precautions as far as her health is are taken. Once we take her inside the examination room, many a times, many of us are not using air conditioning. So we are using either fans. We allow only one relative at a time in the consulting chamber. We as healthcare providers do wear an N95 mask, a face shield, gloves. Many times we are either wearing an apron or a gown to protect ourselves. And of course, when we carry out an examination, which has to be in detail, we spend a lot of time in counseling women, because counseling has become extremely important in COVID times. And of course, once the examination is done, we are either using disposable sheets or we are using cleansing the surfaces so as to ensure the hygiene in the clinic.
All right, and an important point about counseling. I think that's a lot of, there's so much stress anyway when you're pregnant, and can imagine that in the midst of a pandemic, even more anxiety must be building up. Dr. Malia, when it comes to the actual labor, what sort of protocols do you follow, and what sort of protocols do you follow if the mother is COVID positive?
Now, for every patient who comes down for an admission, now as Dr. Parag has said, we will definitely get a test done. Okay, and if your test comes down to be positive, then what we do is we have a special dedicated room. Now, most of the hospitals everywhere have a special dedicated room where you can see the COVID patients, and then you don't mingle them with the common public. So this is what we do normally. First is segregation, yes. Secondly, once they come, we tend to see that these are the patients who tended to go for an early labor. Very little, as I've said, very little data has come down, but then that actually says that they actually tend to go in for a preterm labor maybe about a week or so because of some issues. They do tend to go for a fit. So So it's always better that COVID patients are admitted a week prior to that, and once they come down to labor, as I've said, we do a test and we take all the precautions. Not everybody who is going to come into contact with the patient, everybody have to wear a PPE kit. Of course, a mask is an inevitable one, the gloves and a PPE kit. And then there is another myth which I would like to dispel is your chances of having a cesarean delivery is more if you have a COVID. No, COVID has nothing to do with an increased rate of cesarean section. Now you can go in for a normal delivery also. Lots and lots of them have actually delivered normally. If you go with the data which has been collected by our parent organization, that is the FOGSI, the Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecological Society of India, we have seen that lots and lots of cases have gone for a normal delivery and there is no problem to the child also. The another myth is whether the child is infected later on. Now the child is usually not infected in case of COVID positive mothers. A very small proportion of them have shown to be positive. The advantage of having a breastfeeding, you do not give a breastfeeding, but the advantage is that you express the breast milk and then you give it to the baby because that has got a lot of antibodies. The mother has already had some amount of antibodies which are produced in the mother, and that actually goes through the breast milk to the child and gives you an immunity to the child. So that is one thing. Again, coming down to the other aspects, as I've said, we will always be taking precautions. Now, again, the gown that we use from the hospital side or all the equipments, now that has to be disposed of carefully. Now that is something which we tend to forget. Every hospital takes a good care of that, but then of course you will have to see that it is disposed of really. The other thing is what I think both myself and Dr. Parag have missed is most of the doctors now do not use an air conditioner in their OPDs or in their clinics, because this is supposed to increase the chance of your COVID transmission. So it's better to avoid use of an air conditioner in these cases.
All right, very challenging for the doctors, to be in the PPE kits, also not have any air conditioning. So you can just imagine, these circumstances. Now, Dr. Beniwale, just returning to the issue we were speaking earlier regarding miscarriage, and you also have situations when an MTP has been prescribed. So if you could, for our viewers, talk about what that is, and is it like a miscarriage?
Okay. Now, MTP is medical termination of pregnancy, where the patient or the client, I should say, seeks an abortion because of there are 5 reasons for which MTP can be done by MTP law. Now, nowadays, because of the COVID situation, we try and use medical methods of termination of pregnancy. In our country, medical method of termination of pregnancy, that is MTP, with the help of tablets, is permitted up to 9 weeks of pregnancy. And luckily, in the private sector, most of the patients who are seeking termination of pregnancy do come in first 9 weeks. The challenge comes when the pregnancy is beyond 9 weeks, where we have to think of a surgical termination. Now, whenever we are doing a surgical termination, there has to be again a lot of counseling, because there could be little extra bleeding that takes place during the surgical termination of pregnancy, when the duration of pregnancy is about 9, 10 or even 12 weeks. Now, this procedure has to be done under anesthesia, so these women have to be hospitalized. Of course, nowadays, before we administer any kind of anesthesia or before we do any procedures, COVID testing is something which is recommended by most of the hospitals. This is in view of safety of the patient as well as for the doctors. But yes, we are relying more on medical methods of termination of pregnancy rather than surgical method of pregnancy. Termination of pregnancy.
All right. Well, we're completely out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Bali and Dr. Beniwale, for speaking to us about all these very, very important issues. And do remember, this is what we're going to be focusing on this show all this week, women's health in the midst of the pandemic. Thanks for watching.